and revisiting it and maybe doing it on your own and without any help. So I've put together some key points that I think you might find useful. And I'm going to go through every room that you might have in your house or in your flat and tell you some practical points about how to clean it. Okay, if you have any questions, you can write to us or unmute yourself and we will try and answer as best as we can. Okay, so starting off with bedroom, the first thing you have to do is just look over the floor and the windowsills and the beds. You have to just look for big pieces of chametz and in the cupboards. And it might take 5 minutes and that's fine. Especially if you know that you have not really been eating in your bedroom. If you have, you know that you have, then you should do a hoover through. And you only need to move your furniture if you normally move it around, so that you know that things might have got underneath other things. But really it shouldn't take so long. Bathrooms, I hope that you haven't taken any food into the bathrooms.
If you have, we'll do a separate session to discuss the problematic issues that might happen there.
Yeah, cleaning it, and that's it. The living room. So if you normally eat in there, then just check over for large pieces of chametz. You may need to, if you're sitting on the sofa and you eat there, you may need to check in between the cushions and give it a hoover through. And check underneath the sofas or behind the sofas if you think that food might have fallen there. And that's big pieces of chametz. For the women, just a useful thing, it's a nice thing to buy a new lipstick if you wear lipstick, or lip seal, anything that you use for your mouth. You should buy a new one for Pesach. The covered Pesach, and I think you can get on Amazon. You could probably order it if you're isolating.
I can see a bunch of people who just joined us. So for the people who just joined us, a big welcome to Natasha and Oren, and to everybody else. Dina's just giving a little bit of an overview of how to prepare for Pesach, because obviously the main mitzvah of Pesach is to get rid of your chametz, of any of your bread, leaven items. So she's just giving an overview, and she's in the middle of that.
Okay, so we've just said just a small recap. Areas where you don't usually eat, like the living room, bedroom, just do a quick check for big pieces of chametz and do a quick hoover through the couch. If you sit on the couch and you know that you eat there, just hoover through in between the cracks and behind. But if you don't usually move your furniture to hoover underneath it, you don't need to. Okay, the dining area. If you keep food in the dining area, that's chametz. So for example, whiskey or other boxes of chametz, you need to seal that and you need to sell that. And we're going to send you a link on our website where you can sell your chametz foods. And I think we can put it on now.
I'll put it on the chat,
so everyone can see.
It's really important you sell your chametz. So this will be on our chat here. If you want help to do this, you can just put it on this link over here.
Basically, you just have to make sure it's out of sight, so it's sealed in a cupboard, and that you've sold it and you've filled out the form, and it's really quite easy to process. For books and things, you don't need to go through every single page and every single book. Just that's it really, unless you know that you eat a lot when you're reading your books and there's large pieces of chametz, then you should. Okay.
My study's going to be an issue, so I need to make sure it's really clear.
Cleaning chairs and in the dining room. Just if it's a non-fabric chair, just clean, wipe down with a spray, and if it's a fabric chair, you might want to just check through the crevices if there's any big pieces of chametz, but hopefully there won't be, and you can just hoover through. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but somebody's just asked a brilliant question to us privately. Do you have to sell your dorm room if you're in university and you have a room there with full of chocolates and you've rushed home in the coronavirus pandemic and you've got your room up in wherever your university may be, full of chocolates and nuts and crisps and all sorts of non-kosher Pesach items? The answer is yes, you absolutely have to sell that room, and you would just list that on your chametz form as a location which has chametz items in. You can see in our mirror behind us my alcohol collection. It's lots of bottles of whiskey and alcohol. We need to make sure that we sell that as well, and that is covered up because, of course, that would definitely be a problem over Passover.
What your dorm room looks like and where exactly the chametz was on the form. It's nice and better to be able to specify exactly where it is if you can. And in your house, if you just put all the chametz together in one place, you seal it off, and then when you fill out the form, it's much easier. You could just say it's all in the cupboard in my kitchen on the left or whatever.
Also, just to add about cars, a lot of you will know that all car washes are closed at the moment, and Pesach, you need to make sure your car, well, my car for sure, is full of chametz. So you have to clean your car yourself. I spent 2-3 hours yesterday cleaning both of our cars thoroughly, although Dina wasn't too impressed when she inspected it afterwards. But I hoovered it and I made sure that all chametz was removed. And also I just sprayed some Dettol throughout the car, and any Dettol that would cover it, it's considered lo achilas kelev, which means a dog would no longer eat this item. It's therefore considered nullified. So don't make yourself crazy, but you should clean your car.
Okay, thanks. So so we've said that we're putting away our chametz to sell. Checking your work bags, check there's no chametz in it. Big pieces of food that you've forgotten about, old sandwiches. And also your coat pocket, just something that people sometimes forget about. Check through your coat pockets and your
Who does that? Who has old sandwiches in their coat pockets?
I
never leave it. I always finish it.
In your bag, like my kids' school bags, they might have an old sandwich that I forgot.
I found actually when we were Pesach cleaning Layla, my 5-year-old daughter's bedroom, we found a birthday cake from a birthday party last November, which is a bit gross. But we did get rid of it, don't worry.
I found sandwiches in my pockets.
Clarissa's done it. Thank you for owning up. We appreciate it.
Anyway, okay. So also in the dining room, just clean the tables and cover them. So with a new thick cover that is likely to not rip, so that the food is not gonna reach any chametz surfaces.
Can I just interrupt?
But you don't have to kosher it in the dining room. You only need to kosher in the kitchen.
We had a brilliant question from Corinne. Corinne has asked the following. This is Corinne. My mum's friend made his dad clean the black bin outside the house for chametz one year. It took him 3 hours, and when he was done, she came out and said, "That was the neighbours, now do ours." Brilliant. And I don't know how to use this. Chloe, okay, so what would you do? So just to advise you, you do not need to be spending 3 hours cleaning your wheelie bin. There's nothing in your wheelie bin, I hope, that you would be tempted to go and eat. And the rubbish will be collected before Pesach, or it should be collected. And this is interesting. Pesach comes in on Wednesday night. Let's imagine your rubbish is only collected on Thursday. What would you do? So that is a problem. What I would recommend you do is, again, if you spray a little bit of bleach or Dettol or something really, no animal would want to eat this within your bin lineup once it's outside, obviously in a safe way with no children anywhere near it, then it's no longer achilas kelev, and that will be a way to make sure you don't have that. This mitzvah of getting rid of chametz, guys, it's serious. It's one of the most important mitzvah on the Torah, and therefore, for those of you who think we're absolutely crazy, this is actually a genuinely important mitzvah. But a wheelie bin, you do not need to be Pesach cleaning, because there's nothing in there that would be considered achilas kelev.
In other areas, if you're worried about it, you can't really reach or something, you could just spray with a spray that makes it uneatable, so it's not considered chametz anymore. Okay, so now we're in the kitchen. So for the surfaces, if you have a granite surface, then you're very lucky. You can kosher it with boiling water. You just pour boiling water over it, and you cover where the cracks are, any joints on the granite. If you don't, then all you have to do is just cover it with, again, like a thick material, very thick silver foil or a thick plastic cover, so that when you put, so that it's avoiding the touching the chametz surfaces underneath with your pots and pans. Pots and pans you can get on Amazon very cheap, and we can send the link out. Cheap starter packs of a frying pan and big saucepans and cutlery if you want, or you can do everything on disposable.
Yeah, so that's really important. If you have a very little, no kosher Pesach items, you can order them in on Amazon. They should still be delivering. If you are really in trouble, just private message me afterwards, and I'll give you some other suggestions. But I'll send you a link now to Amazon to a starter pack that you can order, and I'll put it on the group chat. We ordered this one for our items this year, and I'll let you know if it's any good.
Yeah, and you can find things that are really inexpensive. Okay, so for the oven, how do you clean and kosher the oven? So what you have to do is you have to clean it very well, and every tray very well, and around with like a caustic cleaning agent, like a very strong cleaning agent. Obviously you have to use gloves when you do this, and then you have to leave it for 24 hours, and then you put it the next day on the highest heat for 1 or 2 hours, and then a nice thing to do is to cover the trays with silver foil. And when you put your food in, when you're cooking it on Pesach, you should cover the top with foil or any kind of suitable covering for the oven. For the fridge, clean a few shelves out that you think you'll need for Pesach, and those can be your Pesach shelves, and any chametz that you think will last in your fridge and freezer over the 8 days. You just have to seal it and sell it. Remember to sell those shelves in your fridge and freezer that you would like to keep, if you would like to keep that chametz. You have to clean out the whole fridge though. Clean it well. Okay, and in terms of cupboards and keeping, I would have a few designated Pesach cupboards and seal everything else that's still chametz. That can include like your cupboards that have crockery in that you use for chametz during the year, to seal it, and have a few Pesach cupboards that you think for chametz foods and Pesach foods and Pesach cutlery and crockery and pots and pans. Okay, the sink is a little bit more tricky. For the sink, the way to do it is you pour bleach down the drain and over the tap, and obviously you have to do this when the sink is completely clean. Then you wait, you pour it down the sinkhole, then you wait 24 hours, and then you pour boiling water over the tap whilst the tap is running on the hottest level, the hottest temperature. And then you dry it, make sure it's all dry. Everything has to be dry before you're koshering it. Then what you do is you do the rest of the sink with boiling water. You in concentric circles with the sorry, lost picture. Can everyone still see us?
Yeah, I think that's okay.
With the boiling kettle in circles, starting from the drain, you pour the boiling water around the sink and end off with the draining board until the whole thing has been had boiling water over it. And just make sure that you're doing it in a safe environment, that other people are not around, and just be cautious that hot water is going to drip down the sides. You might want to put a towel down as you do it. Okay, now hobs. There are a few different types of hobs. I'll start with gas hobs, which has a grate on the top of it. Gas hobs.
Sorry, I think someone's just shared their screen. Odelia, I think you're sharing your screen. If you could just remove that. I don't know how to, but if you could remove that, that would be great. Okay, carry on, Dina.
Anyway, it's interesting. The gas burners don't need anything. The actual black burners themselves don't need to do anything with that. You need to make sure the whole hob is clean, and you need to clean the grates on top. And then once everything's clean, you need to use a clean, wide chametz saucepan that you haven't used for 24 hours. So it can be that it's chametz, a hob A hob is like where you cook on. Somebody asked, so I'm saying I'm just telling you what a hob is in London if you're American. Then you pour some hot water into this saucepan, and you place it over the hob on the full flame, so a very, very hot flame, the hottest flame that it could be at, for 10 minutes. And then you have to do that over every single burner. And for the grates itself, you cover the grates with silver foil or tin foil, aluminium foil for Americans. And the metal that's between each burner, you just pour boiling water over it, and that should kosher it. And then, okay, any questions?
So for the last 10 minutes, we're going to move over to Q&A. We've had a couple of brilliant questions here I'm going to answer. The first question is, if you sell your chometz, do you still have to lock it away? The answer is as follows. There's an issa, you're forbidden from seeing chometz. So it should not be exposed. You shouldn't leave your hovis bread in the bread rack so you can see it for 8 days of Pesach. Any chometz should be put into a cupboard, sealed, shut. It does not need to be locked. Ideally, it should be sealed if you've got young kids around, for sure.
Put like tape over the cupboard. People aren't opening
Right.
it and able to easily seeing it throughout.
Or if you have a glass display with alcohol bottles behind it, which are not kosher for Passover, just put some white paper on behind it so you can't see it. You ideally should not see any chometz. You don't need to actually lock it away, but it should be very much away. And you can keep chometz in your fridge and freezer. What we do is we keep it at the bottom 1 or 2 shelves. Again, we cover the window so you can't see what it is, and we put it away. Okay.
And you can label on it to remind people if you want to. This is a chometz shelf, so they're not going to go and open it.
A couple of other things. What do you do this year? Because you need to tovel, which is immerse new pans and dishes into a mikveh. This year, obviously, because of the lockdown, we can't go and do that. So the answer is, it's actually quite straightforward. What you can do is you can either make it a hefka, which means you make it ownerless, or you give it to a non-Jew. If it belongs to a non-Jew, it does not require to be toveled. So what we've done is our new pots and pans, we've given it as a gift, temporary gift, to our au pair who is not Jewish, and then we do not have to tovel it. Now, is it a mitzvah to eat matzah outside of Seder? Great question. You are not obligated to eat matzah. Like on Sukkot, you have to sit in a sukkah every day of Sukkot whenever you eat a meal. On Pesach, that's not the case. You don't have to eat matzah every day. The only real obligation is on Seder night itself. But you, of course, when you have another Yom Tov or Shabbat meal, you would need to eat matzah because you'll be washing and benching, and you can't wash and bench on bread. So you would do that. If you have got a gluten issue and you can't eat matzah, speak to me privately. I'll give you some suggestions. There is gluten-free matzah that you can buy. What if you have people in the house that have chometz? So if you live with a non-Jewish flatmate or roommate, again, it doesn't belong to you. You ask them respectfully to keep it to themselves, to keep it private, and then that would be able to solve that problem. That is an issue. Hi, Sarah Quest. That's very exciting to see you on the list.
Get your own burner, because if they're using
Sure. I mean, living with a non-Jewish partner and sharing a kitchen space presents lots of halachic challenges. Feel free to phone me and WhatsApp me, and I'm happy to answer that on a case-by-case basis. I'd like you're welcome to unmute yourself now and ask any other questions, either on the group chat or just generally. But you can see Pesach is intricate, but it's important. It's really, really important. And actually, there's something very spiritual about this physical way that we live. And through clearing out, psychologically, when you clear out and you declutter and you get rid of mess, you get rid of chometz, it does something to you as well. It makes you feel good. I know we've spent a lot of time the last week or two being stuck at home. It's a lot of cleaning and decluttering, and that's been quite an interesting and useful exercise with 4 children climbing off the wall during self-isolating. But we'd like to open the floor to any questions. Does anyone have any further questions?
You can speak.
Chloe.
I have one. With the shank on the Seder plate, are you allowed to eat the meat that comes off the shank beforehand, or is that halachically wrong?
That's a really interesting question. So on the Seder plate, you have a shank bone. Now, the custom to have a shank bone on the Seder plate it's important. We've actually went to Kosher Deli and just bought a bone that was delivered in our meat order, and we will roast that bone and put it on there. There is a little bit of meat on there. If there is a huge amount of meat, there's no problem to eat it afterwards. But generally, it's just like a piece of bone. That's the general idea. and it's symbolic of the Korban Pesach, right? The Paschal offering. But you don't eat it. No, we don't, generally not. It's normally like a piece from the soup, or people don't generally tuck into that.
Not that
Chloe, if you need some
exciting,
good
Chloe.
food, if you need some good food, we'll do some takeaway. Larissa, did you have a question? Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I just had it was just a quick one. I think I missed something that Dina said when you were talking about casheweing a gas hob.
Yeah.
And right at the end, you said something about tinfoil. Was that instead of, or was that like the last step? Or like I just missed what it was.
So the grapes, you know, the black bars that cover
Yeah.
that go over. So you just cover those with tin foil.
Like
and-
you wrap
yeah.
them in tinfoil, or like cover in a layer? Is that like for the whole of Pesach? Like what?
Wrap them in for the whole of Pesach. Yeah.
So in other words, once you've kashered it, as an extra stringency, you will cover those metal grates with tinfoil as well.
Like just like a sheet over the top.
Exactly.
Yeah. You wrap like it can be a little bit tedious, but yeah, you wrap each bit in silver foil.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Pleasure.
No
Have a
problem.
lovely Pesach. Have a
Thank
wonderful,
you.
wonderful Pesach.
No problem.
Any other questions or comments? Feel free to send them in. No, okay. It's been such a pleasure having this opportunity. I wish each and every one of you a beautiful Pesach. Please feel free
And
to
to
message.
you.
Please feel free to
Thank
private
you.
message us if you have any questions or problems. Just also to remind you, we have a few things going on in the community. We have a St. John's Wood Together website with loads of resources, Pesach shop. If you don't have a good Haggadah for Seder night, a lot of Jewish shops are delivering. We have Seder plates from the synagogue. If you need a Seder plate, £10 a plate, you can buy it on our website, all fully laden with everything you need. And we have a few left on our website. I'll try and share that link with you now as well. We also have a group of 65 volunteers. We actually need a few volunteers next Tuesday to help us distribute over 74 parcels of food to elderly people. For Pesach. So if anyone is able to help volunteer with that project, please feel free to private message me as well. There is a lot of, you know, as you say, this is a very difficult time and a very hard time, especially for people whose families are not well. But at the same time, it's quite an inspiring time to just see the amount of chesed, kindness, of love and kind of camaraderie going on, not only in our community, but in every community up and down the country. And I think that for me, you know, is the silver lining at this time, seeing the way in which we are working together. I'm just trying to find this link to show you. Does anyone else have any other questions just while I try and find this link?
I just remembered a practical point. It's a nice idea to get new benches, new Birkat Hamazons. You should put the old ones away because you eat with them and there's chametz that's like in them, and seal them away. New benches, new Birkat Hamazons, new grace after meal. Yeah, you could get them in like the Judaica stores.
Yeah.
Yoni and Dina, just a question from me. How do you understand the
Hi.
Can I just tell you that it's about to cut out because we're not on Pro. When it does cut out, I'll just reconnect to the meeting, so you can all just come straight back in. So when it comes out, just reconnect to the meeting if it cuts you out. So it says less than a minute to go. So just, what's your question?
The rabbi said you could do a Zoom call for Seder. Some people are saying you can't. We've misunderstood.
Great. It's a great question. Yosef has just popped in to say hello. The simple answer is you're not allowed to do a Zoom call for Seder night. If you log back in, I'm going to explain to you why exactly. I can see we've got a couple of other questions. What if you have other people in the house who have comments? Okay, so in terms of Zoom call, like this. Obviously on Shabbat, it's halachically very problematic to do anything electronic. You can't be on your phones, you can't be on your computers, etc., etc. The only exception for that is if there's
the ability to have a haircut before Pesach. Are they theoretically allowed to do it during the Omer or not really? It's more of an academic question. I'm not saying that it's...
Well, what we've done is I have looked at a YouTube tutorial on how to cut people in your family's hair when you've never done it before.
So this might be the last time you see me looking so smart.
And So we ordered
Right.
a special thing. In other words, no, you can't cut your hair in the Omer, even if you couldn't access.
You can't. You see, you're expected to just shave your head before you do
Or
that.
get someone to do it for you, sort of haphazardly. But yeah, as far as I understand, I don't
No,
think
I mean
you
the
can.
halachic response is you have to during the Omer you're not allowed to get a haircut. There are two parts of the Omer. There's up to Rosh Chodesh and after Rosh Chodesh. So if for whatever reason you might normally keep the first half or the second half, maybe there'd be a flexibility with that. But you have to
Okay, fine.
get your hair cut before Pesach. I had an older lady from St. John's Wood crying to me. She said, "You know what the most difficult thing about this pandemic? I can't get my nails done. I can't get my roots done." And I was trying to be empathetic with her, but it's everyone has their own challenges, I guess. But
Okay.
yeah. Okay. If anyone needs any help, yeah, can you listen to music? That's another one. So halachically, again, during the Omer, we don't listen to music. Some poskim, some rabbis say you can listen to non-live music, a cappella music for sure. Some would say if it's very difficult circumstances affecting your mental health, then there may be room to be more lenient. So, for example, if somebody I know in previous years was doing a health regime, they had to lose weight for health reasons, they had to go to the gym, and in the gym they could only exercise with music. So in that case, they're not really listening to music just for pleasure, they're doing it for health. So that would be an example of an exception. Mental health is very, very important, and there would definitely be room to be lenient. Oren's back. I thought that I scared him off at the beginning of my answer. He didn't want to rejoin.
Sorry, I'm new to this.
So like this, Zoom on Seder night. The chief rabbi has said the following. He has said clearly, you are not allowed to be on Zoom halachically on Yom Tov, of course. What he's recommending is there are parts of the Seder you can do before Seder night. So what I'm planning to do is my mum and my aunt, who are not going to be with us, they're going to be alone. We will have in the afternoon of Erev Pesach, on the eve of Pesach, a bit of a family get together. The kids will sing Manish Tana. We'll do some of the songs, some of the sections of Seder night that are permissible to do before nightfall. Things like Kiddush and eating matzah and the 4 cups of wine can only be done after, I think it's 8:36. So that's really, really important. That you do that.
The chief rabbi actually, he sent out a document which lists what things you can do.
Yeah, if you go onto the chief rabbi's website, he's got a document there. Also, just to say, you have a specific mental health reason why, there are exceptions. Pikuach nefesh, saving a life, is the most important thing. And if there's somebody who is on the verge of suicide, who's by themselves, in exceptional circumstances, we can talk with suggestions of what to do for that person, because of course, we need to take care of everyone. That's very, very important. Okay, do we have any questions?
I've got one more. Is it better to do a Seder by Zoom rather than not do a Seder at all?
It's a great question. So, look, I'll tell you like this. Again, halachically, the answer is yes, it's better not to do a Seder at all, but there's no reason you can't do it at all. In today's day and age, we live in a world where everything is available, from Seder plates to interactive, transliterated Haggadahs. And if you are seriously self-isolating and you prepare properly, this will be a Seder that you will remember for the rest of your life, and you'll tell your grandchildren about this Seder. And for thousands of years, Jews have kept Seder night in much more difficult conditions than what we have this year, right? In the Holocaust, in the Warsaw Ghetto, in really, really difficult times. But it is hard.
If you look through the Haggadah book, it gives you everything in English, all the instructions really simply. And if you look through it before Seder night, then you can get prepared early enough so you kind of know what you're doing.
Yeah, the difficulty is others can't follow the service because they can't read Hebrew, and they need you to help them do it. And the only way of doing it is by doing it by video conference. Is it still better not to do video conference?
What I would recommend is you would do the video conference before Seder with all the songs and all the bits and pieces, and then do the halachic aspects of Seder night, the bare minimum of 4 cups of wine and matzah by yourself. You know, I had a situation one year where I was asked the question.
All in English. All the Haggadahs have English in them.
Yeah, you can do Seder night in any language. Absolutely. I had a situation one year where his wife went into labour on Seder night. I'm hoping that won't happen to us this year. But a guy went into labour and he was in the hospital. She and he, they were both in the hospital together. She went into labour. He went into the hospital with her while she was in labour. And how did they do Seder night? He literally had 4 cups of wine and he ate matzah and he said over some of the stories of Mitzrayim, which she wasn't particularly interested in while she was in labour. But that was the bare minimum. So there is a minimum halachic way of doing it. I'm seeing some questions coming up. Lovely idea. Please can you send the link to the Chief Rabbi's pre-Pesach thing? Yes, if I'm trying to look for it now. If I can't find it, you will need to email me, Clarissa, and I will send it to you. And that goes for anyone. That's absolutely fine. Okay, do we have any other questions? These questions are great. I'm loving this. Can I just show you something really cool? Just something to inspire you to think of a good question. You know, sometimes to have a good question, you need to be in the right frame of mind. You need to be in the right zone. So perhaps if I do this, you'll feel more inspired. There you go. Now that I'm in the synagogue, maybe you have more inspiration. Maybe you can now feel.
That's amazing.
I am sitting in the women's section.
It's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, I'm sitting in my seat.
And my seat too.
Okay.
That's so fantastic.
What about a different
I think I've got the link. I'm gonna WhatsApp it to you, and we'll send it out.
Look, there's no question. This Pesach is going to be like no Pesach we've ever had, or please God will ever have again. It's going to be very unprecedented, as everyone loves to say. It's unprecedented times. It's crazy. And of course, the biggest priority is that everyone's health. Everyone should stay well and make the best of it. If you are really by yourself, I recommend you get some amazing books. If you want a suggestion of some books to buy for Pesach, let me know. Make sure you make the most of that Seder night. Make the most of this experience. It will not be an easy Seder if you are alone. But, you know, I don't know if any of you heard my voice call with a 103-year-old member of our community, Stella Lucas, who she said to me for the first time in her life, that's 103 years, she's by herself for Seder night and she's going to make the best of it. Did you hear that clip, some of you? I'll share it with you if not. But yeah. Okay.
Rabbi, can I ask you a question that's not totally connected to Pesach, more about the isolation?
Yeah, sure, of course, with pleasure.
So if there's a 103-year-old who says, come and visit me, I don't care if you give me the corona and kill me, can you go and visit them? Assuming they're not going to take up someone else's bed or whatever.
This is a challenging question. The simple answer is no, but you know, I actually had a similar question from an 86-year-old member of our community. 86, he said to me, Rabbi, I don't care what the government's saying. He lives with his wife who has advanced Alzheimer's, and for him to be alone for 12 weeks with her without leaving the house is so painful. He said, I'm not doing this. I'm staying home. Now, we have to be compassionate. We have to be kind. We have to be caring. But the bottom line is, it's a health risk. You visiting this 103-year-old is not kind. It's cruel. It's like someone who goes and makes a minion now. They think they're doing it for God.
But she says to you, I totally understand the risk, and actually being alone for potentially the last few months of my life is worse.
Again, it's really hard. You know, there are care homes that are struggling. They can't have visitation, but again, you're not allowed to endanger somebody's life. The basic precept of Judaism is pikuach nefesh. It overrides almost anything in our religion, and therefore.
Yeah, but if you've got a clear test from COVID and you know you've definitely not got it and you're not carrying it.
Right, okay. Okay, so for example, I've had COVID-19. I've recovered, thank God, and I no longer have it. Now, as far as I understand, I'm not contagious, and the doctors told me I'm allowed to go out and about now. Obviously, the government wants us to stay home as much as possible. So if you know that you're in those situations, maybe it would be different. But again, you know with 100% certainty, have I had a test? No. So you just got to use your common sense. No slobbery kisses of grandma for the moment.
And also you can get it 1 hour before getting into your grandma's house.
Pardon?
You can get it on the way to your grandma's house.
Sure. You go, you push the lift in the button in the elevator in the building, and you touch it, and you get it on your fingers, and you give her a hug. It's lethal. This is not a joke. We're seeing, we're seeing a terrible, terrible situation. You need to take it very seriously.
Even if she says that she doesn't mind,
But that doesn't mean to say, like, for example, we've organised for elderly people, we've sent them packs of things to help them with. You know, Dina works with teenage girls in need, and she's organised all sorts of things to help them. You need to help people, and we need to care for people. And there are other creative ways you can do that. But again, it's not easy. It is not easy. Yeah. And also get involved. You know, if you are well and healthy and you want to do volunteering, we've got loads of opportunities for you to help us to volunteer. You know, it's so heartening. We're on a volunteering WhatsApp group all day long. People, can somebody get a prescription? Sure, I'll do it. Can somebody get this? You know, just to try and help and assist other people wherever you possibly can. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a wonderful evening. Please stay in touch with us. If you're not on the St. John's Wood Synagogue WhatsApp group, please email or message me and I will add you every day, inspirational messages. It is so lovely to see all of you and hear your questions. And I wish you a beautiful, meaningful Chag Kosher V'Sameach. Have a wonderful Pesach, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Bye, guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bye.